As a new commit at the QB position, early signing day was not the best look for the Pac-12, and we're talking Pac-12 First Alumni Council, all on today's episode of Locked On Pac-12 podcast.
You are Locked On Pac-12, your daily podcast on the Pac-12 Conference. It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Pac-12 podcast. Thank you for making this your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. Sonos is the official sponsor of ESPN College Football. Go to Sonos.com to learn more. I'm your host, Cindy Robinson, former Pac-12 student athlete, and joining me today is Bryan Brown from Locked On Utes. Bryan, we don't have a whole lot of football content going on right now. It's the holidays, and yes, basketball is happening, but it's kind of that gray area of like Pac-12 is a little stagnant. It's not a whole bunch going on throughout the week to discuss, but somehow, some way, we're figuring it out and still bringing news to everyone to talk about daily.
For the diehards, like Pac-12 fan, this is the time of year, right? Because teams are recruiting, teams are going to bowl games, basketball is going on. That being said, it is a little bit more lackluster on the day-to-day when you don't have the weekly grind of a season schedule. But there's always plenty to talk about with the Conference of Champions. And just like Bill Walton likes to say, there are no truck stops here. So we're going to keep on moving.
We're going to keep on trucking along. So to kick things off, we have to absolutely address Oregon's newest commit in the transfer portal. I think it came through 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago. I'm trying to remember what day. I think it might have been Sunday evening. But Bo
big
Nix,
news, whatever day it was, right?
Bo Nix to the Pac-12. I'm going to be 100% honest with you right now. As much as I know the name, I don't know as much about him, if that makes sense, about him as in his game and all of that. I do know it's a big move, a big name coming to the Pac-12, and kind of possibly a new shift for the conference, I'll say. We're seeing a lot of bigger names coming as far as coaches go, and ideally the thought is that they will attract bigger names when it comes to the actual recruits and athletes. And so Bo Nix coming to Oregon as a quarterback after Oregon kind of struggled with the quarterback position this season is huge. They're looking to rebuild back to their dominant prominence after falling to the Utes this season, and this might be an answer to their prayers.
If it is, it'll be a surprise to me. Not saying that Bo Nix is not a good football player, but I think his alter egos of good Bo, bad Bo are likely going to come with him, whether he wants them to or not, to Oregon. What remains to be seen is what new coach Dan Lanning can do with him. If he can surround him with some talent in an environment where Bo can channel more of his good side. He is Zach Wilson for BYU is kind of a familiar style player for me because Bo always seems like he's trying to make the big play to win the game. And when it hits and when it works, it's awesome, right? He had a couple good wins this year. When it's not, it can be really ugly. There are some times where you see him trying to scramble and make something happen, and they have a 26-yard loss. But what I think is interesting about this is more what it speaks for in terms of the conference getting a nationwide prospect to come to the Pac-12 and specifically to Oregon. I think that's a really big deal. And, I think in the grand scheme, what interests me is, will this be now with Dan Lanning at Oregon, with Lincoln Riley at USC, will this be a shift in recruiting back towards the West Coast and the Pac-12 conference? If you're able to go to SEC country and get a guy out of there, it has to say something, right?
I think that's the hope, right? The whole point in the type of coaches you bring into your system it's always with the hope that they're bringing in, or they'll be able to recruit well and bringing talent that wasn't already naturally coming in on its own. Schools like USC and Oregon, when it comes to the Pac-12, are obviously amongst the top options, but it doesn't mean that they're actually attracting all the top options when it comes to recruiting because of the conference they play in, the times of days times that they actually play, the Pac-12 after dark situation. A lot of players are understanding that their draft value and all of that kind of comes into play with how often they're seen, at the college level. And so I do think that's always going to be an issue, but these coaches are hopefully going to bring a different narrative to, the recruiting system and possibly attract exactly what we're hoping. I feel like with the shift in coaches, we want to see a shift in the recruit and talent that comes through the conference.
Yeah. It's this season, I think I underlined exactly what the conference is lacking, right? You had a few teams with really good offensive lines, a few teams with really good run games, some pretty decent quarterback play, not elite or not excellent by any stretch, but there were not a lot of nationwide, banner type skill guys in the conference. It was Drake London, and then it was like running backs. A couple tight ends. Like, it's kind of like the end of the night when you go to the sushi place and they're like, we got tuna.
Tuna. Oh my gosh, I'm cracking up. Okay. Well, coming up next, we're going to discuss early signing day. As we're talking about recruits, we're going to just kind of dive into what happened when it came to the Pac-12 conference and what we saw on early signing day. Wasn't that pretty? I'll just say that. Okay, this is it. The putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours. But on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software? To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, planning, budgeting, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. With NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of your competition. 93% of surveyed businesses increase their visibility and control after upgrading to NetSuite. Over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite. For the new year, NetSuite has a new financing program for those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/LockedOnNCAA. Actually, it's just /locked. Head to netsuite.com/locked for this special one-of-a-kind financing offer on the #1 financial system for growing businesses. That's netsuite.com/locked. Thanks again for making Locked On Pac-12 podcast your first listen every day. Make sure to check out the Ultimate College Football Playoff Preview 2021. Local experts, betting advice, and draft analysis. The most comprehensive college football playoff preview begins this Friday. Okay, so we are discussing new recruits coming into the Pac-12 conference. We talked about the newest commit from the transfer portal, Bo Nix going to Oregon. And now we're talking early signing day. Initially, the thought process was, let's go through the different schools, see who they got, see who's worth talking about. And not to say that none of those athletes are talented or, worth some shine. But I think the bigger conversation worth discussing, and this is something Bryan and I discussed off air, like to come up with, a topic to talk about that makes more sense and is more relevant to what's going on with the Pac-12, is how disappointing early signing day was for the Pac-12 conference. We saw, for any of you who are tapped into college football, even if you're not really, I'm sure you heard about the big news about the #2 recruit flipping over from Florida to Jackson State, going where Deion Sanders is now the head coach, and really changing the culture of HBCUs, and how now we're starting to see some bigger recruits decide to go the HBCU route. A lot of people have issues with it because they feel like it's NIL related and money driven. But regardless, we're seeing more players go to those HBCUs and give those HBCUs a chance to earn more funding and, have more resources so that they can attract more of these college students that, are going to PWIs and maybe not getting the same experience that they would at HBCUs. I think HBCUs are very important to our ecosystem as a diverse, student athlete. I did have an option to go to HBCU and I didn't choose to. I went to Pac-12 schools, but I think that what HBCUs can offer diverse, student athletes and just people, period, is an opportunity to be around people who look like them more and, the culture wise, it is a difference. But said all that to say that when it came to early signing day, Jackson State obviously took the shine away from everyone. And the Pac-12 conference didn't really have a chance. So within what we're talking about, we still have till February 2nd for the national signing day. And I'm wondering if the new coaches we've seen come in, the current coaches that are still there in place, are they going to be able to turn around this draft class and make it something worth talking about?
One word answer, no. But I think there's a lot of correlation between the Travis Hunter situation at Jackson State and what's happening in the Pac-12, right? It's, you talk about HBCUs and the benefits. It's almost entirely academic right now, right? Like it's, where young black people can go and excel in math and science and areas like that. The numbers are off the charts for what HBCUs do for them in an educational sense. What Deion Sanders and the rest of these groups are trying to do is make that the same thing on the football field. Is it a little early for that? Absolutely. And I think the big concern is that with a player like Travis Hunter and the transfer portal, he's going to get there. He's not going to feel like he's developing enough to get to the NFL, and he's going to transfer to a big school again. And I think that the correlation between Jackson State and that situation in the Pac-12 is that the Pac-12 is trying to get people and trying to get players in that they can develop in an athletic manner to go to the NFL. They want to showcase that. And you can see by the top 3 ranking classes currently, which if I gave you $1,000 to guess the top ranked class in the Pac-12 and you didn't know already, I bet you couldn't get that $1,000.
The top ranked class if I didn't know already, obviously I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I probably agree with you. I probably wouldn't have guessed that because that isn't the team I would have guessed.
Stanford,
nobody would have. Share it for the people who don't know. Yeah. But
you take Oregon or USC or UCLA, right? Like Stanford, great academic school. They actually have a really great track record of sending players to the NFL as well. A good developmental program. The second one, Arizona, which. What?
After the season they had, like one in what was it? One in how many games? 11? 1 in 10?
Yeah, 1 in 11.
Yeah, 1 in 11. Let's not forget that they have a brand new coach. I would wholeheartedly say the only way they're getting those commits is for the sake of saying like they know they're gonna play. They're coming in to help shape shape a different team and bring a new vibe and want to be a part of the team that changes the dynamic of what Arizona football is, because otherwise there's no real incentive to choosing Arizona.
No, it's in Tucson. There's not a lot of outstanding NIL opportunities there right now compared to Oregon or USC or some of the other schools that you might think of would have a more established track record. But again, it's a player like Tetairoa McMillan, one of the top ranked wide receiver recruits in the country.
Can you say that one more time?
Tetairoa.
Tetairoa.
Yeah, it's okay. Listen, 2 years practicing that one from when I first saw him, in a camp, and I still can't really get it right. He did a really cool commitment video a few months ago to Oregon, very family oriented, talking to I think it was his little nephew, maybe his little brother. He was like 3 or 4, telling him where he's going to go, super sweet. And now all of a sudden he's heading to Arizona. So that you pop it right back in the old drafts folder. But, he's a .9783 rated recruit by the 24/7 composite standard, which, on a scale of 1 to 99, that's pretty high. And the thought process is I go to Arizona, I'm going to get coached well, I'm going to get developed, they're going to be better, I'm going to have a better opportunity to go to the NFL there than I will at, say, like a USC or an Oregon where everything seems to be in transition, right?
That's fair.
And that's where I think the biggest correlation is, can Jackson State deliver? Can Arizona deliver, right? We know that Stanford can. We know that Utah can, right? The number 3 ranked classes in the conference. And as we look down the roster, it's UCLA, Oregon, Colorado, Oregon State, Cal, USC, Washington State, Arizona State, Washington. These are all out of order, right? But I think, the programs like USC, Oregon, Washington, they're probably going to hit the transfer portal really hard and try and save some of those spots for guys that want to get out that have already, played a season or two.
All right, so now you have encouraged me to dig deeper into Arizona's early signing day draft class and talk with Michael Luke about it, because now this is a huge turn of events. We did not expect this at all, not for them to be amongst one of the top teams with the better recruiting class out of the Pac-12. Yeah, something for sure.
23rd nationally with 4 4-star recruits. That's a really impressive first class.
That's very impressive. So yeah, me and Michael Luke have a few things to talk about for sure.
Michael deserves this. Let's be honest. He's had a rough
true.
Go.
After the season that they had to deal with, he does deserve a little shine in that realm. All right. Well, coming up next, we're going to talk about a new alumni council that has been developed for the Pac-12. Interesting situation there. We'll dive deep into it and talk a little bit about it. It is bowl season, and for all you Pac-12 fans, there's at least 5 more bowl games for you to tap into. I've been telling you about PrizePicks, and if you still haven't signed up, what are you waiting for? In addition to the college football action, PrizePicks makes college basketball more exciting. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy, and they're the leader in college sports daily fantasy. They offer more college football and basketball props than anyone in the world, and they offer all the star players of the Power 5 as well as mid-major players that you might have never even heard of. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of. In basketball, you can play points, rebounds, assists, threes made, and more. All of the users that deposit and use the promo code will receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Just be sure to use promo code Locked On. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over/under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks allows mixed sports entries, so you can take the over on Embiid, combine it with the under on Rodgers in the same entry. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. PrizePicks is safe and offers fast withdrawals, so don't hesitate. Check out PrizePicks.com and use promo code Locked On, or go to your app store and download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Okay, so we've been talking about Pac-12 recruits coming into the conference, and now it's time to talk about some Pac-12 alumni. I am a Pac-12 alumni, so any opportunity to work within the Pac-12, do anything covering the Pac-12, I typically I'm all here for it, because I do believe in either giving back, or you have a perspective of being a part of the Pac-12 that some others that, can't really give you. So when I'm hosting this show, it's for the sake of saying I was a former Pac-12 athlete. I can identify with some of these athletes, what they're going through, what they're experiencing, and all that good stuff. So the Pac-12 has announced that they are building a alumni council, which will be for Pac-12 football. It's bringing together former and current football stars, student athletes, and coaches from all 12 universities to support Pac-12 football strategy and promotion efforts. So already you can tell this is an effort to mix things up with the Pac-12, get the conference a little more buzz going, have former alumni be a part of promoting the Pac-12 and getting, them a little more shine. I'm sure it'll come into play with the whole Pac-12 TV deal as well at some point. But I want to say a part of me is kudos to the commissioner for reaching out to alumni for help in this situation, because sometimes the players who were actually involved are the best option to help things start progressing and going along.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of what this council is designed for. It says in the press release that the council is designed to leverage the knowledge and promotional power of prominent Pac-12 football alumni in support of the Pac-12's football goals. which I think if we could rewind back to the very start of the season, you and I kind of talked about this a little bit. There's no voice for the Pac-12. There's no representative. There's no, there's no Feinbaum that just, everybody calls and says, Paul, I just can't stand those Washington Huskies and everything they're doing up there by that lake. But I think this takes a step going in that direction because it's a great mix of both former players in prominent NFL positions, prominent media positions.
Yeah.
But also in prominent just business positions. And I think it's great to have that being led by Commissioner for Football Operations, Merton Hanks, who I gave the nod to when we were walking across from each other. I've kind of gone in on Merton a little bit. Like, I loved him when he played for the 49ers and he'd do the Merton dance with his neck. I haven't loved his comments about the officiating in the conference. But credit where it's due. This is a good move. And, I think the list of names that's on the council is, I love it. There's a nice mixture.
Yeah, you have names from all over. You have Scooby Wright, who'll be represented for Arizona, Arizona State's Eric Allen, Justin Forsett, who we know from the NFL, Cal, Shane Vereen, Cal. And the thing is, a lot of these schools have some great players playing in the NFL. So choosing the ones that they chose, I'm sure it went in, like a lot went into choosing these players, and also how much these players or former players would be willing to give, as far as their time and whatever else that they're volunteering to be a part of this. You have Jonathan Franklin from UCLA, which if anybody ever followed his story, he was a huge name coming out of UCLA, running back. He actually got drafted to the Packers and then had a neck injury that it just made sense for him to hang it up. And from there, he did some stuff working with the Packers. I know he worked with the Rams. I'm not sure if he's still with the Rams, but he's always been very community oriented. And so he's a great person to implement in this because he's going to find ways, I feel like, to have the Pac-12 implement themselves in their communities in the different cities that they are in, especially when it comes to Los Angeles. So I'm super excited. Mercedes Lewis is on here. Steve Smith out of Utah. Brock Stewart. Go ahead.
I was going to say the lone Ute, but it's the best one.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay. You have Jack Thompson out of Washington State, which is a huge name. Super. I don't know. It's like seeing these names, they're familiar to me, which I'm already knowing, then it's going to be a great situation. I don't see this going in a negative way. I think this is a positive spin for the Pac-12 conference, and maybe we'll see some of the progress that we've been hoping to see, in the past seasons.
If you had to pick one name to put on this list that's not on there, do you have one that you'd go with?
Reggie Bush.
Yes. It's the only answer, right? It has to be.
But I just feel like it's because they slighted him so much. They owe him so much.
Yeah.
But it's also just his stardom has superseded way past his playing career. Mm-hmm. He's still a very prominent figure in this industry. And so what better name, but also to make some amends for, after the many years of trying to disown him, which you could never do because the college football world would never let anybody do that. But you know what I mean? The man still ain't got his Heisman back. Give him his Heisman back. Okay. That's all I'm saying. Especially in this new era.
This isn't a Pete Rose situation. This is, for sure. I'm with you 100%. And I'm going to go to Wendy's and get some breakfast tomorrow just because of it. So
Wendy's to get some breakfast.
Yeah. You're not seeing the Reggie Bush commercials where he goes?
I mean, I get it, but I still, some things are not convincing enough. I'm just sorry. I'm not messing with Wendy's for breakfast. I'm just not. I'm sorry.
You're missing out.
I like the Frosties. I like
honey
the
chicken biscuits. Honey chicken biscuits.
God, leave that to Chick-fil-A. That's all I'm saying. Okay, leave that to Chick-fil-A.
We'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Bryan, as always, thank you for joining us today on Locked On Pac-12 podcast. Listeners, thank you for making Locked On Pac-12 podcast your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Other than that, make sure you guys check out Locked On Utes on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. Bryan Brown and Jake Hatch breaks it down daily for you guys. And you guys are familiar with Jake at this point because now we've had him on for 2 shows, trying to get him to be a weekly regular on here so we can have both Utes hosts on here. They're both great, probably some of my favorites to have on here talking about Pac-12 anything. Okay.
Utah boys. That's all we love to do is talk.
There we go. There you go. Other than that, you guys can make sure you check out Locked On Pac-12 podcast on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow on Twitter at LO_Pac-12. And you can listen on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Locked On Utes on Twitter at Locked On Utes. Follow Bryan Brown at Brown Bear SOC. And other than that, make sure you guys stay locked on Pac-12 on the Locked On Network.